Outside, the jungle thrummed with the chorus of cicadas and distant calls of nightbirds. But inside, a different kind of storm brewed. The rare flower sat on the wooden table before her, its petals slowly unfurling in the dim light cast by flickering oil lamps. A faint luminescence radiated from within the blossom, casting twisting shadows across the walls, shadows that seemed to move with purpose and intent. Alina's green eyes, sharp and reflective like the jungle canopy, remained fixed on the flower. She felt Aitan's unsettling presence pressing against the edges of her consciousness, whispering in tones both commanding and seductive. The spirit of King Velen, the forgotten tyrant, was stirring once more, his voice threading through the petals like a dark vine. "You cannot deny me forever, Alina," the voice murmured, low and resonant. "You hold my legacy, my power. Together we could reshape this empire." Her breath caught in her throat, fingers trembling as she reached out to touch the flower's glowing petals. The contact sent a shiver through her, both terrifying and intoxicating. She closed her eyes, summoning every ounce of her botanical knowledge and the lessons Ellis had imparted about floral magic. The flower was not merely a vessel, it was a conduit, a bridge between past and present, life and memory. Suddenly, the room shifted, colors bleeding and warping as Alina was pulled into the dreamscape, the surreal realm where memories and reality entwined. The jungle around her dissolved into a tapestry of shifting petals and shadowy figures. At its center stood Velen, his form regal yet warped, woven from petals and shadows, eyes like burning embers that pierced through the dream's mists. "Why resist what is inevitable?" Velen's voice echoed, both a command and a plea. "Embrace me, and power will be yours." Alina steadied herself, feeling the oppressive weight of his presence trying to drown her will. Her hands moved instinctively, weaving gestures learned from Ellis's teachings. Soft chants escaped her lips as tendrils of floral magic unfurled, wrapping around her like a protective cloak. Petals blossomed mid-air, their scent sharp and sweet, grounding her to her own essence. From the periphery, Ellis appeared, pale and ethereal, her silver vine hair flowing like liquid moonlight. She began a counterchant, her voice a soothing balm that wove through the dreamscape, reinforcing Alina's shield. Nearby, Morrow's steady presence was a tether to the physical world, his carved talisman glowing faintly in the dream's haze. Velen's figure flickered, his menace wavering under the combined strength of Alina and her allies. The tyrant's memories surged visions of his brutal conquest, the anguish of those he ruled, his own haunted regrets, but Alina met each with empathy and defiance. She refused to be consumed. "You are not my prisoner," she declared, voice steady despite the tempest inside her. "I carry your memories, but I am not your vessel." The dreamscape trembled as Velen's form recoiled, petals dissolving into gentle blossoms carried away by an unseen breeze. The flower's glow softened, no longer a beacon of oppression but a quiet light of possibility. Back in her laboratory, Alina opened her eyes, heart pounding but spirit unbroken. The battle had been fierce, but she had held her ground. The tyrant's spirit was not vanquished, lingered still, but so did her resolve. She turned to Ellis, who nodded with a serene smile, and then to Morrow, who let out a relieved breath. Together, they had crossed the Petals' edge, stepping into a new chapter where power would no longer mean domination but understanding. Yet, as Alina looked once more at the flower, now resting calmly in its pot, she knew this was only the beginning. The struggle for memory, identity, and the soul of the empire was far from over. But for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever would come, armed with knowledge, magic, and an unyielding heart. The jungle outside whispered on, its secrets waiting to unfold like petals in the dawn. Alina sat cross-legged on a woven mat, her fingers tracing the delicate fibers of ancient scrolls spread before her. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows across the walls, where faded tapestries depicted scenes of the jungle empire's long-forgotten past. Sari's voice, low and steady, wove through the dim room like a solemn hymn. Velen was not merely a tyrant, she said, her eyes clouded with memories. He was a man torn between vision and cruelty. His unification of the tribes was born of fierce determination, but betrayal was the seed that shattered his crown. Alina listened intently, the weight of those words settling deep within her chest. The flower in her possession pulsed faintly, as if echoing the elder's sorrow. She had long known Valon's memory was complex, but today she glimpsed the fractures beneath his legend. "Tell me," Alina urged gently, "what betrayed him?" Sari sighed, fingers tracing a faded illustration of a crown entwined with thorns. Those closest to him, his council, his generals feared his growing power. They conspired in shadows, and in the end, he was abandoned in the very jungle he sought to command. The revelation struck Alina with a strange familiarity. She too felt the sting of isolation, the burden of a power not fully hers, yet impossible to relinquish. Her gaze dropped to the flower, its petals trembling ever so slightly. Days later, standing amidst the jungle ruins where Valon's reign had crumbled, Alina breathed in the heavy scent of moss and blossoms. The broken stones, overgrown with vines and speckled with flowers, whispered secrets long buried. A gust of wind stirred the leaves at her feet, carrying faint echoes of power and regret. She closed her eyes, imagining the crown once gleaming atop Velen's head, now just fragments beneath the jungle's reclaiming arms. "What does it mean for me?" she whispered, the question hanging in the humid air. Before she could dwell further, the bustling cacophony of the memory market pulled her back to the present. Morrow's voice cut through the clamor as he grabbed her arm, his eyes sharp. "Alina, you must be cautious. Factions are stirring, their eyes on the flower. This is more than history, now it's a battleground." The scent of exotic spices mingled with the tension as traders eyed her with suspicion and greed. Morrow's carved wooden talisman caught the fading light, a symbol of protection in a world where memories were weapons. That night, beneath a canopy of blooming petals in her private garden, Alina sought solace. The air was thick with floral fragrance, wrapping around her like a bomb. She closed her eyes, the soft rustle of leaves sinking with her steady breath. The intertwined legacies of Velen and herself unfurled within her mind, pain and hope, destruction and renewal. She opened her eyes with a clarity that surprised her. The broken crown was not just a symbol of loss, but a call to mend what was fractured. As guardian of memory and life, she would bridge the chasms of the past and guide the Empire toward a future where shadows and light could coexist. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, Alina felt the stirrings of purpose strong enough to withstand even the darkest memories. And as the petals around her shimmered softly in the moonlight, she knew the true test was yet to come. The night was far from over, and the Empire's secrets still whispered through the leaves. In a small clearing dappled with sunlight, Alina stood between Morrow and Ellis, the rare flower cradled gently in her hands. The petals, a delicate swirl of crimson and violet, pulsed faintly, as if alive, a heartbeat in the lush silence. "We cannot afford hesitation anymore," Alina said, her voice steady despite the storm of uncertainty within. "The flower's power is not just a weapon, it's a legacy. We must choose how to wield it." Her green eyes, reflecting the vibrant jungle around them, met Morrow's steady gaze first. Morrow shifted his weight, the carved wooden talisman at his neck catching the light. I've seen what happens when power falls into the wrong hands. The memory traders grow bolder each day. If we don't act now, they'll take the flower and twist its memories into chains. His tone was pragmatic, but carried an unspoken bond, a promise to stand by Alina through whatever came. Ellis's pale fingers brushed a petal, her silver-vined hair cascading softly as she spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from somewhere beyond the clearing. The dreamscapes show me paths, but they are fraught with shadows. To heal, we must first understand the depth of the wound. King Velen's memories are dark, but not without truth. If we bind them with care, we can weave a future that honors the past without repeating it. Alina nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over her like a mantle. Then we start today. We'll combine our knowledge, my botanical lore, Morrow's understanding of the Empire's undercurrents, and Ellis's dreamwalking to unlock the flower's full potential. Not for control, but for healing. The flower's glow intensified, its petals unfurling slowly, releasing a shimmer of light that danced like fireflies in the humid air. Alina reached out, channeling her botanical magic, and delicate threads of luminescent energy wove from the bloom, intertwining with the jungle's verdant canopy. The air hummed with possibility, a fragile promise of renewal. Morrow exhaled deeply, the tension in his broad shoulders easing slightly. You carry more than just a flower, Alina. You carry the hope of all who have been silenced by forgetting. And the risk, she replied softly. But I won't let that stop us. Ellis stepped closer, her eyes shimmering like moonlit petals. Tonight, I will take you deeper into the dreamscape. There, we will seek the heart of the flower's magic and the Empire's future. As twilight deepened, the trio prepared for the journey ahead, bound by a blooming resolve that would challenge the shadows creeping ever closer. In the jungle's embrace, beneath the watchful eyes of ancient trees, Alina felt a stirring within, a cautious hope that even the darkest memories could be transformed when tended with care. The night was thick with whispers, but for the first time in a long time, those whispers spoke not only of fear, but of possibility. The path forward was uncertain, but Alina's heart steeled itself for the trials to come. The flower's petals had begun to open, and with them, a new chapter for the Empire was ready to unfold. As the first stars blinked awake above, Alina caught Morrow's steady gaze and Ellis's serene smile, knowing that together they would face whatever darkness awaited, not as mere survivors, but as guardians of a fragile, blossoming hope. And somewhere, deep within the flower's glowing core, the soul of the forgotten king stirred, watching the dawn of change with eyes both haunted and hopeful. The jungle held its breath, and the story of memory, power, and redemption bloomed anew. Alina knelt before her centerpiece, the mystical flower that had become both her burden and her beacon. The petals shimmered faintly, a delicate dance of iridescent hues that seemed to shift between deep purples and vibrant greens, as though the very essence of the jungle was held within them. Carefully, she uncapped a vial of distilled floral essence, rare concoction. She had crafted over many nights and began to anoint the petals in slow, deliberate strokes. Each touch sent a ripple through the flower's glow, as if awakening dormant memories locked deep within its core. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. This flower was no ordinary specimen. It was the vessel of King Velen's soul, a tyrant whose legacy had haunted the Empire for centuries. Yet, here in her hands, It held the potential to transform from a symbol of oppression into a living archive of truth. Alina's mind raced with the possibilities if she could weave together the botanical magic she understood so well with the ancient memory lore Ellis had taught her. Could she create a new way to preserve history, one that did not dominate or erase, but illuminated and healed? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft, ethereal voice. "The memories are not chains, Alina," Ellis whispered, stepping through the greenhouse door, her silver-vined hair shimmering in the low light. "They are threads waiting to be woven into something greater." Alina looked up, eyes meeting those of the dreamwalker. Ellis's presence was calming, a steady current in the swirling storm of emotions. Together, they moved to a circle of flowering vines that Ellis had conjured from the dreamscape itself, their petals glowing with a light that seemed both otherworldly and deeply natural. "Watch," Ellis murmured, her hands weaving through the air as if plucking invisible strings. The vines responded, twisting and curling, their blossoms pulsing in time with the memories Alina had felt leaking from the flower. Each petal became a canvas, each vine a pathway, carrying fragments of history that shimmered like stars caught in a web. Alina reached out hesitantly and touched one of the glowing petals. Visions flooded her mind, scenes from the Empire's past she had only glimpsed in fragments. The fierce battles that had forged the jungle tribes into a single empire, the whispered betrayals that had led to Valen's downfall, the quiet moments of hope that had been buried beneath centuries of fear. But these memories were different now. They did not claw at her with pain or demand submission. Instead, they invited understanding, empathy, and reflection. "It's beautiful," Alina breathed, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. "And powerful," Ellis agreed. "This is the way forward, to honor the past without being enslaved by it." Outside the greenhouse, Morrow stood watchful, his eyes sharp as ever. The memory market buzzed with its usual chaos traders, shouting prices, the clink of coins mingling with the hum of whispered deals. But Morrow's attention was elsewhere. He knew the dangers that lurked beneath the surface, the factions that would stop at nothing to claim the flower and its secrets. He felt a surge of protectiveness for Alina, the friend who had always been more than just a botanist. She was a beacon of hope in a world so often shrouded in shadows. Yet, even as he kept vigil, Morrow sensed the shifting tides, whispers of new alliances, betrayals, and the ever-looming threat of violence. Back inside, Alina carefully lifted the emerging tapestry from its resting place. It was a living creation, woven from petals and vines infused with memory magic, glowing softly with an inner light that seemed to breathe. The tapestry told a story not of kings and conquerors alone, but of the people, the land, the intertwined fates of all who had shaped the empire. She looked to Ellis and Morrow, her companions and anchors in this uncertain journey. "This is only the beginning," she said, her voice steady despite the storm of doubt still swirling within. "If we can share this with the Empire, if we can change how people see their past, maybe we can change our future." Ellis nodded, her eyes reflecting the tapestry's glow. "Memory is a garden," she said softly, "and we are its gardeners." But as the three stood united in the greenhouse, a shadow flickered beyond the market's edge, watching, waiting. The new path Alina had forged was radiant with promise, but it was also a beacon that would draw both light and darkness alike. The weaving of memory and life had begun, and with it, the fragile hope of a jungle empire awakening to its true story. Alina spent the following days deep in experimentation, blending her botanical knowledge with the mystical arts that Ellis imparted. Each attempt brought new revelations, how the flower's essence could be coaxed into living threads that pulsed with history. how memories could be arranged not as chains, but as tapestries of shared experience. The process was painstaking, demanding not only skill but profound emotional resilience. The tyrant's soul still whispered in the petals, a constant reminder of the delicate balance she had to maintain. Morrow's presence was a steady comfort. He helped navigate the political undercurrents that swirled around their work, warning of factions eager to seize the flower's power. Together, they strategized ways to protect their creation. Knowing that the tapestry was more than a scientific breakthrough, was a symbol of change that threatened entrenched powers. One evening, as twilight bathed the jungle in hues of gold and violet, Ellis led Alina into the dreamscape once more. This time, the memories wove themselves into a vast garden of light and shadow, where each flower held a story, each vine a connection between past and present. Alina reached out, her fingers brushing petals that sang with voices long silenced, and felt a profound empathy for the Empire's forgotten souls. "This is the true power of memory," Ellis whispered. "Not to dominate or erase, but to heal and unite." Alina's heart swelled with cautious hope. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but in this moment, she glimpsed a future where the Empire might finally reconcile with its past, where memory was a gift rather than a weapon. As dawn broke, painting the sky with streaks of rose and amber, Alina knew her journey was only beginning. The tapestry would speak for those who could no longer tell their stories, weaving together petals and memories into a legacy of light amid the jungle's shadows. And in that fragile dawn, the memory weaver found her true purpose. She moved cautiously, her senses alert to every broken twig and whispered sound as she approached the edge of a village recently scarred by violence. The air was thick with the acrid temps of smoke mingled with the faint, bittersweet scent of crushed petals flowers, trampled in haste and fear. Villagers, faces drawn and eyes wide with terror, huddled in small groups amid the ruins of their homes, their voices low and trembling with uncertainty. Alina's heart tightened as she stepped forward, her gaze falling on a child's small hand clutching a wilting blossom, its once vibrant colors dulled by dust and neglect. The fragile flower seemed a cruel mirror to the lives shattered around it. She knelt beside the child, offering a gentle smile, though her own uncertainty gnawed at her. "We must find a way to stop this," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Nearby, Morrow's presence was a steady anchor. His brow furrowed deeply as he exchanged terse words with a group of villagers desperate for protection. "They're caught between factions," Morrow said grimly, his voice low but firm. "Neither side cares for their safety, they see only power and profit." The memory market was no sanctuary either. In a cramped stall, lit by flickering oil lamps, Morrow confronted Doran. The air between them was electric, with barely concealed hostility. "You think you can just take the flower and everything it represents?" Morrow challenged, his voice a harsh whisper. Doran's smile was cold, predatory. "The flower is a commodity, like any other. Control it, and you control the Empire's future." Their confrontation was cut short by the sudden arrival of Alina, her face set with determination. "This isn't just about power," she interjected, her voice steady despite the tension. "It's about the people, those whose lives are being torn apart by this endless struggle." Doran's eyes narrowed, calculating. Idealism won't protect them, only strength will. That night, under the shroud of towering ancient trees, Alina followed Ellis into the dreamscape. The air shimmered with otherworldly light as twisting vines encircled them, glowing flowers wilting and darkening as shadows crept across their petals. Ellis's voice was calm but urgent. "The Empire's turmoil is reflected here. The vines represent the tangled loyalties and conflicts that choke the land. You must understand this if you are to find a way through. Alina reached out, her fingers brushing a fragile blossom that seemed to pulse faintly with light. Can these vines be untangled? Ellis nodded slowly, but it will take courage and sacrifice. Days later, in the modest hut of Sorry, the village elder's words carried the weight of centuries. Her eyes, deep pools of knowledge, met Alina's with a mixture of sorrow and hope. The empire has always been a tapestry of delicate threads, Sorry said, her voice trembling slightly. Each thread a story, a memory, a life. But now, those threads are fraying. You hold the flower that binds them, Alina. Be careful, it can heal or destroy. Alina absorbed the elder's warning, feeling the immense burden of her role. The conflicts she faced were no longer abstract struggles for power, they were battles that scarred real people, real lives. Her mission was more complicated, more urgent than ever. Back in the jungle's heart, Alina convened a meeting with Morrow and Ellis, their faces etched with fatigue but alight with determination. We cannot let this spiral further, Alina said. The factions will tear the empire apart if we don't find common ground. Morrow nodded. We have to reach out to the villagers, build trust. They're tired of being pawns. Ellis's gaze was distant, yet focused, and we must continue to explore the dreamscape. The answers lie there hidden in the memories we fear to face. Together, they began weaving a fragile plan, one that required patience, empathy, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Alina knew the path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but the alternative was unthinkable. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the jungle in hues of fiery orange and deep violet, Alina stood at the edge of the village once more. The tangled vines of conflict had grown thick and choking, but in her heart, a seed of hope took root. She would fight for the Empire's future, not with brute force, but with the delicate strength of understanding and unity. The night air was alive with the chorus of unseen creatures, a reminder that life persisted even in the darkest shadows. And somewhere, deep within the flower she guarded, the petals whispered of change, waiting for the moment to bloom. But as Alina turned to leave, a sharp rustle behind her made her pause. Eyes gleamed in the darkness, watchful, calculating. The tangled vines were not the only danger lurking in the jungle's depths, and the next move could mean all the difference between salvation and ruin.